You know what? I think it was bigger than just a unit coming up short. You know, it was really the offense as a whole had a lot of things that we needed to get fixed this offseason. So we really spent a lot of time and effort into doing that, and that goes from looking introspectively at ourselves and our unit, and also as the offense as a whole, what we needed to do better to let everyone kind of function better. Because if the offense is a little bit dysfunctional, then every unit is a little dysfunctional by nature, So we had to fix everything on offense that needed fixed, just like I'm sure the defense had stuff they wanted to fix.
So what's the key to fix for your unit this spring? What have you been?
We got to make big plays. I mean, we got to hit the deep ball. We got to throw the deep ball. We got to protect the deep ball. I mean, when that happens, and you've seen it here before, it opens everything up. And when it doesn't happen, it's hard to move the ball. And so we, as an offense, have to do that. And we've put a huge emphasis on it, and it's been pretty good this spring.
One of the knocks was lack of separation. You hear that?
What's that?
A lack of separation by the guys.
Yeah.
Was that an issue, do you think? And how does that get corrected?
You have to watch the film to really identify that. So there was a lot of plays with a lot of separation, and there's a lot of plays where we needed separation and didn't get it. So that's definitely an issue on select plays, and then there's other issues on other select plays. It's really you can't identify one thing and say that's the problem. They didn't get separation, or oh man, JT can't throw the deep ball. None of that's true. It's all partially true to make the whole thing true, which is that we didn't hit deep balls when we needed to.
The fans think it's just a speed issue. Much more than that, right? It's not just a guy outrunning a guy. It's the pattern, it's the route, it's all that in terms of separation.
It's a lot of things. Speed, technique, personnel. It's a lot of things.
Who are receivers that have kind of elevated their play so far this spring, Zach?
Paris is having a great spring. Terry McLaurin's having a great spring. KJ's having a really strong spring. Johnny's had flashes, and he's hopefully going to be a more consistent guy for us. And then Ben and Austin have both had a pretty good spring. Kind of both of them have been a little dinged up, but when healthy, they've had good days. I'm forgetting anybody. Those are the main ones.
And so I think you've used pretty much a six-man rotation the last few years. Is that going to be the same deal this year? The top six are going to play?
That's kind of what we want it to be. Two at every position, and we can just roll them. So unless there's a deficiency somewhere, then we're going to play six. That's what we always want to do. So
I don't have to be honest with you. Johnny, I think after the bowl game, there was some question about whether he would even be able to hold up and be on the team anymore.
Yeah, Johnny's had a tough, kind of 3 years here. Battled injuries, trying to fight through them, trying to get healthy. And so after the year, he had to really see if he could get his body healthy and get it to where it is today. And he did. So we're excited to see him a healthy Johnny Dixon.
So what does it look like? What does a healthy Johnny Dixon look like?
Well, we'll find out. I mean, he's healthy right now, but he's still developing. Like I said, he's played, but for 3 years he really has been kind of not practicing. Here and there, he'd have a practice. He'd go. He'd have a good practice. So right now, we're trying to get him developed.
So he's kind of like, even though he's an older player, would you say that he's still kind of an immature player in terms of his development?
Yeah, but at the same time, he's been mentally developed for 3 years. So he understands football. He understands the position. He understands the offense. So he's ahead of where a young kid would be, but physically the grind of going through 15 spring practices and being able to push through it and get better, that's what he's not struggling with, but that's what he's dealing with and having to push through.
If things go well, do you think he could be a contributor?
Absolutely.
Is Paris kind of a natural fit at H? I mean, I know he kind of played.
Yeah.
He played running back in high school.
Yeah.
We know that.
Paris is really talented. I mean, he could play all three. He has played all three. He definitely has some of those running back skill sets because, like you said, he played in high school. Right. He's a big, tough kid, smart kid that's electric. I mean, he can really go.
Has something clicked for him this spring, or is he just in a more natural spot? It seems like he's really stood out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he worked really hard in the offseason. I don't know that anything clicked. He played a lot last year, but he's performing at a more consistent level right now because of the work he put in after the season, for sure.
You mentioned Terry McLaurin. What steps has he taken this spring?
You know what? Terry's a guy that just shows up every day and he just makes plays. He does. I mean, he just goes and he's silent. He's kind of the guy that all of a sudden you'll walk off practice like, wow, he made 4 big plays today. And so he really just is showing up more. And I think we're also putting him in a situation to give him an opportunity to show up.
How so?
Just, by play calling, play design, just to give him a shot at being a guy that makes a play.
What's it been like working with Kevin and Ryan Day, with what they've brought to the table? I mean, KJ's talking about, you guys obviously focus on the deep ball a lot, and the tempo has been a big subject, but for your position, what has that meant for you?
No, it's been awesome. And I knew Kevin and Ryan before they came here, and I respect them extremely high, at an extreme high level as far as coaches go. And they came in, and it's been an awesome transition. I mean, we made tweaks and changes here and there, and it's been really good.
It just seems like the perfect hire when you look at Kevin Wilson, a guy that with his chops as a head coach and then as an offensive coordinator. It just seems like ideal if you could.
There's no doubt. I mean, to hire a guy like that with his pedigree, track record, and his mind, and how good of a coach, how his track record as a coach, not just a head coach or a coordinator, but just as a coach, coaching kids. You're not going to find a better hire than that.
What are you looking for out of your wide receivers in the spring game?
I just want to see him perform in front of that crowd. I always tell him that is the point of the spring game. It's one for the fans to come and kind of see Ohio State and the Buckeyes, and it's also for us to see them in a game-like atmosphere with 100,000 people and see if they can go make that play in front of that crowd, because it adds a huge element for sure.
Terry said he was joking a little bit with Coach Wilson about the fact that Coach Wilson wanted him at IU, obviously. What's that like for you, being the guy who had a hand that helped plucking him out of the state that Coach Wilson used to
It's funny. I don't get involved. I just let Coach Wilson and Terry and Coach Wilson and Austin go back and forth. But it's humorous.
Is that like because he has familiarity with maybe those guys a little more than the other guys who knew him before he came in here? I don't know if you said you put Terry in good positions. I don't know if does that help those guys at all that they have a relationship with Coach Wilson, or does it not matter?
No, I don't think it really matters. Once he got here, that was part of his deal. He needed to build a relationship with the whole offense. So he did a good job this offseason, really giving one-on-one time to certain guys. So he knows them all pretty similarly now. But when they first got in, he knew who they were, obviously.
When did your plan for Paris to age